Manjusri's Gatha teaching the appropriate method for human beings. As commanded, Manjusri rose from his seat, prostrated himself with his head at the feet of the Buddha, and reverently chanted the following Gatha. Perfect and clear by nature is the Bodhi ocean. Pure and faultless Bodhi is in essence wonderful. Its fundamental brightness shone, so by chance creating an object which then obscured its radiant nature. Thus, in delusion, there appeared one-sided emptiness in which an imaginary world arbitrarily was built. Steadying itself, the thinking process made the continents, while the illusory knower became a living being. The voidness so created within Bodhi is but a bubble in the ocean. Worldly realms, countless as the dust, arose in this relative emptiness. When the bubble bursts, the void's unreality is exposed. How much more so is that of the three realms? Although all return to one nature at the source, there are many expedient methods for the purpose. Though holy nature pervades all, direct or inverse methods are expedients. Hence, newly initiated minds of different aptitudes are quick or slow to enter samadhi. Form, which from thought crystallizes, is too difficult to look through. How can perfection be achieved through this impenetrable form? Sound, voice, word, and speech are each confined to specific definition, which by itself is not all-embracing. How can they help perfection to achieve? Smell, perceived when in contact with the nose, without that contact is non-existent. How can that which is not always present be a means to achieve perfection? Taste exists not of itself, but is perceived when flavor is present. Since sense of taste is never varied, how can it to perfection lead? Touch exists when there's an object touched. Without an object, touch is not. Since contact and its absence are not constant, how can touch help to achieve perfection? Dharma is inner defilement called. Reliance thereon implies an object. Since subject and object are not all embracing, how can Dharma lead one to perfection? The organ of sight, although perceiving clearly, sees things in front, but cannot see behind. How can partial sight of the four quarters help one to achieve perfection? The inward and the outward breath have no link uniting them. How can they, thus unconnected, be used to achieve perfection? The tongue is useless, touching nothing. When flavor is present, there is taste, which vanishes when the flavor is absent. How can this help to achieve perfection? Body must be conditioned to the object touched. Both cannot be used for all-embracing meditation, which is beyond both subject and object with their limits. How can this serve to achieve perfection? The tumult of thinking with the mind disturbs the serenity of right perception. Since stirring thoughts are most hard to eradicate, how can intellect serve to achieve perfection? Union of consciousness with eye and sight has three components that are not settled. How can that which is devoid of substance be used as a means to win perfection? The hearing mind, which reaches into space, needs a great cause for its development, but untrained men cannot realize it. How can this help to achieve perfection? Meditation on the nose is only an expedient, means to control the mind by fixing it for the moment. But wrong-dwelling can create an illusory abode. How can this be used to achieve perfection? Preaching the Dharma plays upon voice and words, but awakening occurred during practice long ago, words and speeches never going beyond the worldly stream. How can this be a means to achieve perfection? Observance of rules of discipline controls the body, but never that which is beyond it. Since control of the body is not all-embracing, how can this serve to achieve perfection? Transcendental powers come from a former cause. How can they derive from discriminating consciousness? Since thinking from externals cannot stray, how can it serve to achieve perfection? If the element of earth be used for contemplation, it is solid and cannot be penetrated. Belonging to the worldly, it lacks spirituality. How can it be used to achieve perfection? If meditation be on the element of water, the thoughts that then arise have no reality. Beyond feeling and seeing is the absolute. How then can water help to achieve perfection? If, for meditation, the element of fire be used, dislike of desire is not complete renunciation. 'Tis no expedient for newly initiated minds. How then can fire become a means to achieve perfection? If meditation is on the element of wind, motion and stillness are a false duality from which supreme Bodhi cannot develop. How can wind serve to achieve perfection? If the element of space be used for meditation, its dimness and dullness cannot be enlightenment. Since whate'er is unenlightened differs much from Bodhi, how can the element of space help to achieve perfection? If on the element of consciousness you meditate, it changes and is not permanent. The mind fixed on it being false, how can that element then help you to achieve perfection? Phenomena are all impermanent. Thinking originally comes and goes. Since cause will ever differ from effect, how can the element of perception achieve perfection? I now submit to the world-honored one that all Buddhas in this world appear to teach the most appropriate method, which consists in using pervasive sound. The state of samadhi can be realized by means of hearing. Thus was Avalokiteshvara freed from suffering. Hail to the regarder of sound, who, during the eons countless as Ganges sand, entered as many Buddha lands to win the power and comfort of his independence and bestow fearlessness upon all living beings. O you who have achieved the sound profound, the seer of sound, the sound of the purifier, who, unfailing as the sound of ocean tides, saves all beings in the world, make them secure, ensure their liberation and attainment of eternity. Reverently I declare to the Tathagata what Avalokitesvara said. When one dwells in quietude, rolls of drums from 10 directions simultaneously are heard, so hearing is complete and perfect. The eyes cannot pierce a screen, but neither can mouth nor nose. Body only feels when it is touched. Mind's thoughts are confused and unconnected. But voice, whether near or far, at all times can be heard. The 5 other organs are not perfect, but hearing really is pervasive. The presence or absence of sound and voice is registered by ear as is or is not. Absence of sound means nothing heard, not hearing devoid of nature. Absence of sound is not the end of hearing, and sound, when present, is not its beginning. The faculty of hearing, beyond creation and annihilation, truly is permanent. Even when isolated thoughts in a dream arise, though the thinking process stops, hearing does not end, for the faculty of hearing is beyond all thought, beyond both body and mind. In this Saha world, teaching is by voice. Living beings who cognize not hearing's nature follow sound to continue transmigrating. Though Ananda memorized all that he had heard, he could not avoid perverted thoughts. This is to fall into samsara by clinging to sound, whilst reality is one against the worldly stream. Listen, Ananda, listen closely. In the name of Buddha I proclaim the Vajra King of Enlightenment, the inconceivable understanding that illusions are unreal, the true samadhi that begets all Buddhas. You may hear of esoteric methods from Buddhas countless as the dust, but if you cannot eradicate desire, to hear much causes errors. To hear your very self, why not turn backward that faculty employed to hear the Buddha's words? Hearing is not of itself, but owes its name to sound. freed from sound by turning hearing backwards, what do you call that which is disengaged? When one sense organ has to its source returned, all the six senses thereby are liberated. Seeing and hearing are like optical illusions, just as all three worlds resemble flowers in the sky. With hearing disengaged, the illusory organ vanishes. With objects eradicated, perfectly pure is Bodhi. In utter purity, the bright light pervades all, with its shining stillness enfolding the great void. All worldly things, when closely looked at, are but illusions seen in dreams. Dreamlike was the Matangi maiden. How could she keep your body with her? Like a clever showman presenting a puppet play, though movements are many, there is but one controller. When that control is stopped, figures show no nature. Likewise are the six organs derived from one alaya, which divides into six unions. If one of these returns to source, all six functions are ended. With all infection ended, Bodhi is then realized. Any defiling remnant requires further study, whereas full enlightenment is the Tathagata. Ananda and all you who listen here should inward turn your faculty of hearing to hear your own nature, which alone achieves supreme Bodhi. That is how enlightenment is won. Buddhas, as many as the Ganges sand, entered this one gateway to nirvana. All past Tathagatas have achieved this method. All bodhisattvas now enter this perfection. All who practice in the future on this dharma should rely. Avalokitesvara did not practice it alone, because through it I also passed. The enlightened and world-honored one has asked about the best expedients for those in the dharma-ending age who wish from samsara to escape in their search for nirvana's heart. It is best to contemplate on worldly sound. All other methods are expedients used by Buddha in particular cases to keep disciples from occasional trouble. They are not good for indiscriminate practice by men of different types. I salute the Tathagata Store, which is beyond the worldly stream. Blessed be coming generations, so that they have abiding faith in this easy expedient. 'Tis good for teaching Ananda, and those of the Dharma-ending age who should use the hearing organ which surpasses all others, and with the true mind accords. After hearing this, Ananda and the assembly felt their bodies and minds be in tune with the profound teaching. To them, the Buddha's Bodhi and Parinirvana were like the way home, which a traveler should know well before returning from a long journey abroad. Others present, such as the 8 classes of non-human beings, students of Hinayana, and bodhisattvas who had just developed the Bodhi mind, and those whose number was countless as the sand in 10 Ganges rivers, awakened to their fundamental minds, avoided defilement, and won the pure Dharma eye. After hearing the Gatha, Bhikshu self-nature realized arhatship, and an uncountable number of living beings developed the unsurpassed Samyak Sambodhi mind.